That's what DBR does for us. So the tools that we learn in our study at BRASI, they are very, very applied, practical tools to help us continue producing and meeting customer service requirements. Top priority customer service focus is customer service satisfaction and loyalty. Key elements that we measure are on-time delivery, product service quality, and responsiveness. In responsiveness, we not just measure the on-time delivery, but we also take note of the customer requirement, desire, wishes that maybe the system is not able to fulfill today, but that's a message that we cannot ignore. Just because we cannot do it today doesn't mean that we should not strive to do it. For example, if your lead time, the stated lead time is 7 days from the order receipt to order delivery, and you hear this buzz, most customers are asking for 3-day, 5-day, 4-day delivery, something is changing in the market. Either they're getting it somewhere else or their needs have changed. So if their needs have changed, they will find a way to get that. That's what drives the supply chain efficiency. So you need to start noting that market feedback, the buzz, and start working. Can we meet that requirement? That's your responsiveness, right? And it drives revenue generation on an ongoing basis for the future. And your market reputation. If you are the one that has the shortest lead time and the best quality, okay, you are the talk of the town. People know about you. And then why it is first, of course, we know that you need cash flow, without which business cannot perform. So if you have 2 lakhs payment terms, then you're using more of the borrowed money, high leveraged, you're paying the interest cost, and that cuts into your profit. So your own cash flow, that is very important. Your cash flow coming from the customers is, of course, preferable than cash flow coming from your borrowed or leveraged money, because then you have to pay for that. And the cash flow itself, it ensures liquidity, so you are not under the risk of going under. And working capital efficiency, all those ratios that we discuss in finance, and very important, financial stability. Whenever you go for vendor selection, one of the key considerations is how stable is the vendor financially, because you don't want to go into contract and then find out that they disappear or they have difficulty, they can't produce, they cannot supply, and affecting your own operations because there is some issue with them financially. So financial stability, besides technical ability and performance and capability, all that, this is very important to have financial stability and liquidity. And you manage that through efficient working capital management, inventory turnover, like I mentioned, very, very important. How many cycles of inventory you manage within the year. And of course, that's industry-based. Your benchmark group will be your peer group. If you are in a garments industry, let's say it has 12 turns in a year, and the average, if you're doing 13, you are very good, beating the industry, you are more competitive. If you're doing 8 only or 9 only, that's a matter of concern. That affects your cash flow, very important. And receivable payables optimization. Receivables are the term that you set with your clients, your customers. If you're 2 lakhs and they're taking a lot of time to pay you back, that affects your cash flow. And your payables, if you're buying stuff, services, raw materials, equipment, supplies, and you have to pay upfront, that creates a gap between receivables and payables. If you can manage to balance that, say, let's say 1 week payable, 1 week receivable, that they only have 1 week gap. But if you can manage to get advanced payments from customers in that business, like some businesses like equipment, hardware, plants, capital equipment, they work on advances. So then you may be working with negative working capital requirement. You don't need capital from anywhere. Your own capital paid from your customers feeds the business. So there has to be balance, right? And that cash flow management ensures you can continue with operations. You are able to pay your bills, your salaries, your requirements, license fees, etc., and you can invest in the future. Efficiency, very, very important. And that our focus in our module 4 in Syscom is to totally on how to improve. That's why it's called growing. The module 4 is called grow. So we have planning module, the first one, all about planning, how to set the business. Then we have operations, all of these things, how to make, how to deliver, how to ship, how to store. So planning, and the second one is organization, how to organize supply chains, the channels. Third is the operations, and fourth is the growing part of the business, where we learn about the tools, Lean, Six Sigma, TOC, and so forth. That's where you focus on. So cost efficiency, how do you know that your cost is good, bad, or worse? You compare with competition. It's very difficult to get cost information or intelligence from the competition, because this is almost like a confidential secret. So you have to find different ways to analyze, to assess, and prorate, check the market, and see what could be their cost. See, the price is common knowledge. You can walk into a store and look at different competitors' prices. This brand is selling the drink at $1, other one is $1.25. You see the differentiation, why they can charge a little bit more brand equity, quality, etc., presentation. But to find the cost is the real challenge. So then you can see this is the price and what could be the cost. What's the spread? What's the margin for your competition? So you can at least know where you are standing, and is your margin spread really good enough, or you should be improving it. That's your benchmarking approach. Otherwise, generally speaking, you should be just working at zero cost optimization, challenge every cost in procurement. And procurement, as we know, has a huge reserve for cost saving. That's why it's called low-hanging fruit. Each time you have a fresh look at procurement, you find something to save. First cut, let's say if you haven't done it for a long time, you will find huge savings sitting there for you to take. 20-30% is not uncommon, trust me. And then you do the second round, maybe 6 months, a year later, you may not get 30%, but still there'll be 5-10%, maybe 2%, but that's the money, right? The money you saved when buying is cash. It shows up right into your bottom line, your profits, and can be a good percentage of your net margin, because net margins are like how much, 10-15%? If you save 2% on your procurement, you're increasing your net margin by, let's say, 20%. That's the beauty of that. And then look at the total cost of ownership. You buy a material at low price, but lo and behold, it goes into use in the shop floor and creates more scrap, more difficulty setup, more difficulty, and not quality in the final product. There you lose money. So the price tag is not the only measure. It's the overall life cycle of the product through its use, utilization, scrap, appearance, ease of use, etc., ease of dispensation, everything else. So it includes procurement costs, not just the cost of the material itself, but how do you procure? Are you set up properly? Are you organized properly? Are you buying things that you should be buying centrally? You're buying locally and losing the possible or potential leverage by adding the volume by combining the volumes across the board, or you're buying locally to things that you can buy globally, or you can buy globally things that you should be buying locally actually, because they can make it more efficient purchases. So it depends on what kind of item you're talking about. And logistics, very important. If you do not think about the routes and the hubs and the locations, that's where we use our location model, where you have a model in Excel. These are all applied and ready to use model that we teach in BRASI. At BRASI, you can plug in the information, how many vendors it's coming from, to the plant, what are the current locations, was the tonnage coming, and the distances, and the cost per ton mile or per kilometer ton. And plug in the numbers and you run the model and you see, okay, our plant should actually be located elsewhere, save on cost. So we do all of the kind of stuff. and also includes warehousing and operations. So the idea is to, while maintaining quality, we're not compromising quality. While doing that, we are becoming more efficient and reduce costs, and that's always possible. In fact, sometimes you gain in quality by saving cost. And you go hand in hand, because imagine if your inventory turns are low, meaning that you're maintaining inventory, keeping inventory for long periods in the warehouse, you're losing quality. Materials, as it sits more, it loses quality because of humidity, moisture, damages, just moving around, sitting there collecting dust, or sometimes becoming out of use. The model changed, the part number changed. So when you do efficiencies, do cost cutting, you improve quality because now the material is flowing through at a higher speed. You got fresh materials and better quality. That's just an example. And it has an impact on profitability and competitiveness, because the more profitable you are internally, the more you can invest in your marketing and your product development, more features, and you become more competitive.